What does it look like to work with Social Snowball? Do I have to be at a certain revenue number? Is there a time where it makes sense to engage with you all, reach out? How do I go about subscribing or adding your service to what I've already built?
We have some brands that maybe only have 200 creators and are doing insane amounts of revenue with those 200.
Let's start at the beginning of your journey. Where did the curiosity for that e-commerce world come from? And what was kind of your first initial stab at it?
It was right after I graduated high school. I honestly remember the day very well. I was still, I was hustling, trying to make money, but just more of a traditional path, in between high school and college. So I was just working on a fishing boat, and that was just the job I had for the summer.
Without having people around you that have seen success done it in the past, it's hard sometimes when shit is tough to believe that. But when there's people around you that have done it and tell you that it's there and you see the proof, it becomes a lot easier.
And we have brands that are already doing over 100 million a year that sign up with us, and they already have a huge affiliate program, but they want to migrate it to a platform to make the management easier.
How did you get connected to TikTok? Obviously, like that, I'm hearing that for the first time. Like that sounds like a massive win for the business,
Yeah.
and clearly it has been. How
Yeah.
did you go about building that relationship and getting that opportunity? Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Andres Sanchez, and today I have Noah Tucker, the founder of Social Snowball, a platform that allows you to get a better grip on your affiliate marketing and grow and build partnerships with these affiliates and content creators. I'm super excited because I think this is one of the hottest topics right now. If you are living under a rock, you don't know, but everybody should know. TikTok Shop is one of the biggest things. All of these creators, affiliates, like this market is just blowing up. I'm really excited to get to share this with you and have somebody who is an expert in that field like Noah here on the show. Noah, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I always give the guests right here at the beginning the typical, hey, pitch us, tell us who Noah is so that the listeners get an understanding.
Sure. Yeah. So, like you said, my name is Noah. I founded a company called Social Snowball, and you did a great job of describing it. We're essentially an affiliate platform that helps brands partner with creators and influencers as affiliates. My background before this was doing a lot of work on the brand side of the e-com world. Besides building some of my own brands, I did a lot of consulting work and media buying work, and was also building affiliate programs. And that's kind of how the idea to build a platform to manage those types of relationships started. This is like 6-7 years ago, but back then I was trying to partner with Instagram influencers and have them be affiliates to drive revenue. And there weren't really any great platforms to help me do that. The only options were affiliate platforms that were more built for the like kind of legacy traditional affiliate, like publishers. And when I tried to bring an influencer onto a platform like that, it just didn't work. And, there were also like these influencer management CRM tools, but they didn't have any way to track affiliate sales. After kind of being frustrated with those platforms for a while, the idea to build my own started eventually.
That's amazing. And let's start at the beginning of your journey. Where did the curiosity for that e-commerce world come from? And what was kind of your first initial stab at it?
It was right after I graduated high school. I honestly remember the day very well. I was still, I was hustling, trying to make money, but just more of a traditional path. I was, in between high school and college. So I was just working on a fishing boat, and that was just the job I had for the summer. And a couple friends were visiting from out of town, and they had a drop shipping store that they were running together on Shopify. And it was the first time I heard of any of these concepts. And they weren't even running ads or anything. They just built these very simple stores selling clothing, and they were just getting traffic by posting organically on Instagram and trying to get ambassadors. And when I saw that, and I saw that they were making more money than I was making on the fishing boat, I just immediately, basically pivoted all of my focus into figuring out how to make that work. And that was kind of what introduced me to the world that I guess I'm still somewhat in today.
That's amazing. And I always like asking that question because it's always fun to hear everybody's oh shit moment, like when they realize.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's when somebody pays them that first dollar online. For others, it's when they have a friend or someone who is close to them who's like, hey, dude, I just made this amount of money. You should probably try this too. And again, I say this a lot on my episodes. I think we're living in one of the coolest times ever with this ability to create all of this wealth off your phone, your laptop. And you're somebody who's definitely very entrenched in that industry now, and you were before. Um, at what point did you start to realize it was time to build your own platform? Because obviously, you mentioned there was some legacy issues, and 7 years ago, trying to get an influencer was so different than what it is right now, or a content creator. I don't even think it was normal or a viable career to be a content creator. Where now, I think it's like the top 5 most wanted career.
Yeah. Um, well, I think after that moment when I kind of like started to try to build my own store and then kind of got sucked into that world, like I was doing a lot of different things. I was doing consulting work and building some of my own stores, and like I said, a lot of media buying stuff. And there was a good, that was like a good 5 years of my life where I just kind of got really deep into that world and became obsessed with it. And it was really great, and it was really great because it was a great learning experience for me to just like dip my toes into business, learn, that you can make money besides just like a traditional job, and learn a ton of skills, meet a ton of cool people. Like that was great. But what it lacked, for me at least, is I wasn't really passionate about anything I was building. So, any of the stores that I had built were cool, but like I wasn't really super passionate about them. Same with the consulting work I was doing. And so when I started to have the idea for a platform, for affiliate programs, when I was dealing with those issues of like the legacy tools that existed, I was also kind of ready to take a jump into something that I was more excited about and passionate about. And the idea of building a software company and building a platform that is solving a problem that I really felt every day and that I knew existed and that other people were dealing with that same problem, that really excited me, and I knew that I would be more excited and passionate about it. And I mean, that was like that realization moment now was maybe like 6 years ago. I still feel that same way today. I still feel just as excited, if not more excited, now that we have all this traction. So, it was a combination of like noticing that this would solve a problem for me and a lot of other people, as well as wanting to kind of make that career pivot and take that next step. That's kind of what fueled my motivation to actually go ahead and do it.
Hey, I wanted to take a quick break from the episode you're currently watching to let you know about our newsletter. We write a newsletter twice a week to a community of over 13,000 CEOs and founders, highlighting the founders that we interview, the brands they're building, and how they're scaling and growing these companies. If you're a founder interested in blowing up your brand in 2025, check out the link below and subscribe to our free newsletter. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, and before we get into the current status of the platform and where it's become, I think we need to address how you built it. Most people are probably listening here saying, how did someone pivot from media buying, being in this e-com world, and just all of a sudden have the ability to spin up a platform? Do you have any coding knowledge? Did you use some of these no-code tools? What did it look like when you actually decided we're going to take this from an idea to a real product?
Yeah, it's a great question. It was honestly like the most painful journey and biggest learning experience of my entire life by far. I don't know how to code at all. I'm not technical. I didn't use any no code platforms or anything like that. I don't think that's a great route. Um, but I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And like at the time, coming from an e-commerce background and having a brain trained in the way that, an e-commerce business works, I imagined that I'd be able to just hire an agency to build the product that I was envisioning in my head. And then once it was built, it would be done. And then I could just run ads and like get a ton of users. And it's basically the same as selling an e-com product without the cost of goods is kind of what I was imagining, which is obviously could not be further from the truth, but that's what I was imagining. So that's kind of the route I originally pursued. I hired an agency that was a software development agency, and I explained to them the scope of what I was trying to build and how I would imagine the app would look, and the features that I wanted it to have. And they told me it would take about 3 months for them to build like a MVP, minimum viable product of what I was explaining. And 3 months turned into 15 months, and it still wasn't done. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is not working, and I ended up terminating it with them. And then the next soon after that, I hired another freelancer that was much better and was able to get the MVP working, submitted to the Shopify App Store, and like a very, very, very basic version of Social Snowball was launched. From that point on, though, like we still had a really weak foundation for the platform. I was hiring and firing freelancers on Upwork and Fiverr, trying to figure out how to get this thing to be stable. Nothing was working. And honestly, it was a legitimate 2-year journey from that point on of working with poor talent that was creating a lot of technical debt and maybe releasing a feature, but then breaking two others when they were doing that. It was a 2-year journey of just that before I found one engineer that I could just tell was different, and that just everything that they built was more stable and they would fix things faster. And again, it was more of a gut feel, because after 2 years of eating shit, you just kind of start to feel out what a good engineer looks like. Like, I couldn't have even picked this, like, I wouldn't have even known he was a good engineer 2 years prior. But after 2 years of just dealing with engineers, I was starting to just get more familiar with the terminology, and just I could understand some basic things. And so I realized that this guy was good. And, he ended up being our first like actual W-2 full-time employee. And once we had him, he helped me hire more engineers. And they would have to get approved by him. And then at that point, we started to build a more solid, stable product. And that first engineer is actually still with us today. And, our engineering team has grown up a lot since that point. Like, we have a CTO now who was like the VP of engineering at our biggest legacy competitor, and we have like a sick engineering team based in Sacramento, and these guys are killers. I was just out there with them a couple months ago. And I mean, the team has come a crazy way, from even that point to now. But that was kind of how I overcame the challenge of like getting a stable software product into the world. I basically made every mistake possible. And then once I found one good person, I just held on to him for dear life.
That's amazing. And I want to make sure that we highlight, like, there's plenty of people listening, watching right now who are maybe in a similar position or are listening and are like, oh shit, like, I don't want that to be me. What advice could you give them from those 2 years of you basically, like you said, eating shit, trying to understand and figure out? What advice could you give to the people listening and watching that maybe helps them miss out on that, but not completely? Because I think everybody needs to eat a little bit of shit and figure stuff out on their own.
Well, you always will, right? In any business you start, there's always shit to eat, no matter like how experienced you are. But I would say, as far as like avoiding those issues, the advice I would give, and what if I were to do it again, I would only do it this way. And if I couldn't do it this way, I wouldn't do it again, is find a technical co-founder. Having a co-founder that you trust is the most important thing, not just some random person from the internet, but someone that you genuinely trust, that can be a partner in the business and build the product for you, and essentially be a free engineer in the early days, because really good engineers are really expensive. And you need a really good engineer. But the only way you can pay a really good engineer without money is by them basically being a 50-50 partner with you, to an extent. So that's what I would do. I'd find a technical co-founder, someone that you genuinely trust, that's all in on the business just the same way you are. You guys have to both be all in, committed. And that person can build out an infrastructure for you and build out a product for you for not free, because they're getting equity, a lot of equity, but without paying money. And then you could at least get something off the ground. And I mean, this is assuming that you're bootstrapping like I did. Like, you could also raise venture capital, and then you can afford, a great engineering team. But for those of us that choose to bootstrap instead, that's definitely the way to go.
And you mentioned that you bootstrapped. Like, looking back, would you have rather raised venture capital? Are you happy you bootstrapped it? I'm sure this is not your last startup. What would you do for the next one?
I'm very happy I bootstrapped this one, because I think this was the perfect business to bootstrap. Like, I think, at the scale that we've gotten to now, if any one of my competitors, or really any other company in the space, could get to the scale that we are now without raising money, I think they would all take that option, because we have a ton of freedom. Like, we don't have a board that we have to report to. I get to make all of the decisions for the business. I could choose if I want to sell the business at some point, versus investors having to approve that. Like, every aspect of the business, I have full control over. And I think that's the main reason a lot of people start a business, is to have control over their business, over their life, over the outcome of the business. And if you raise a venture round, you lose that the day that you accept that money. And there's trade-offs, because you also can grow a lot faster and hire talent off, really good talent off the bat. So I'm very happy I bootstrapped this one. But that being said, to answer your second question, I would never bootstrap again. I would I would never do it again. Like it's I'm so happy I did it, and I'm so grateful that I did it because it just worked. It just worked out really well. And I think like bootstrapping your first business makes a lot of sense. And like you like I think most entrepreneurs, if this is their first business, they should bootstrap. I would not bootstrap another business though, because I just wouldn't like I just would not like it just it feels like something you do once. It doesn't feel like something you do twice. So that's kind of my opinion on that.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, obviously, I mean, not obvious, but I would assume that you've maybe given some equity to team members and stuff. Are you still the
Yeah.
majority owner of the business?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we do have an options pool for employees, and we give employees, stock options, and there have been some like advisors and like really small little angel investors that are more just like strategic advisors, that have invested a little bit of money, but besides that, like we have never done like a proper venture round or anything.
Okay. And now that we've covered a lot of like what it took to build Social Snowball, where is it now? What are you really excited about from the product standpoint? How big has it grown since those early days? Let the people maybe that have never heard of it because they're not in the space or they're now learning about it
Yeah.
understand how big you've built this company, because I know it's really impressive, but I want the other people to know.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the product, it's really like a full end-to-end creator and ambassador management platform. Everything from sourcing to gifting creators to attribution and tiers, social content when you get tagged in social media. Now we have a TikTok shop integration, all of the payments to creators, email, like really the full end-to-end workflow for managing hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands plus of creators, and being able to have creators be an acquisition channel for your brand and managing that at scale. The platform is really robust now. It actually it is a platform now. Like it felt like an app in the beginning. It feels like a platform now. As far as the scale, we have a little over 2,500 brands that use the platform. Millions of affiliates. Our team is 21 full time. So it's grown a great amount, especially in the past like year and a half. Growth has really taken off, and I'm super excited for what next year can look like too.
Do you think that the TikTok shop explosion has had a lot to do with the current or the recent large amount of success? Because I know for a fact that platform itself is where most of these creators are. I know Instagram and some of these others have more established creators, but it feels like right now everybody is at least trying to be a content creator on TikTok because of how lucrative the shop is.
So I think TikTok Shop helped us in a few different ways. In the early days of Social Snowball, we were kind of one of the first businesses to ever say that like, oh, your social media creators can be affiliates and you should just only pay them a commission, and maybe gift them a product. But it was very different from the more traditional influencer partnership where you pay a flat fee in exchange for a post. This was like, no, this is a performance channel. You're going to pay them a commission based on the revenue they drive you. And that was a newer concept when TikTok Shop, launched and obviously gained a ton of traction very quickly. And they, became a creator, the same kind of concept, like a creator platform where it's only commission based as well. That really helped propel, the market into the direction that Social Snowball was waiting. Like we've been a creator platform where you partner with creators as affiliates, but the market was like not quite caught up to that concept yet. And TikTok Shop really pushed it in that direction because if you're partnering with creators on TikTok and Instagram and you could only pay them a commission on TikTok, why are you paying flat fees on Instagram? Like it's changed now. Like it's becoming more of a performance based channel. So that's one way that I think TikTok Shop has really helped our business. And then the second way is we were invited to be one of their beta platform partners for their affiliate API, so we can integrate. Well, we do integrate now with TikTok Shop natively. We're in the TikTok Shop app store and all of that stuff. So now that we are one of the only influencer platforms that lets you manage your your influencer partnerships across your Shopify D2C channel as well as your TikTok Shop, there's just a ton of new features and functionality that we've already built and that we're building now, to power or to basically, with this new access that we got at TikTok Shop, it just opens a lot of doors for new stuff that we could add to the platform and a lot that we've already added. So that's also been really cool because, like you said, TikTok Shop is huge and everyone wants to be a creator there. All the brands want to get, have presence on there. And now we're kind of, part of that journey. It feels like we're kind of on the side of that rocket ship now because our platform integrates with it.
How did you get connected to TikTok? Obviously, like that, I'm hearing that for the first time. Like that sounds like a massive win for the business,
Yeah.
and clearly it has been. How did
Yeah.
you go about building that relationship and getting that opportunity?
I mean, it started, even before TikTok was inviting anyone into to integrate with their affiliate API. I don't remember exactly how. I don't know if we reached out or they reached out, but somehow, or maybe someone introed us, but somehow we got in contact with a totally different team to just do a webinar. It was like their marketing team. They're like, oh, we want to do webinars with influencer platforms, and we'll post it on our, or send it in our newsletter, and you guys could promote it too, and like, we'll just do a webinar. And of course, when TikTok asks you to do that, you say yes. So we did a webinar with them and that, all went smooth. And then afterwards, I reached out to our point of contact there and I was like, hey, look, I know this is not your department, but we really want to talk to the TikTok shop team. Like what they're building is super aligned with what our product is and what we're building. Like I think there's so much opportunity for us to collaborate or maybe even integrate. And our contact there said that he knows someone on that team and he'll make an intro. And he did. And we, talked to one of the members of the TikTok shop team. And he told us, he's like, hey, actually, we are doing a beta program where we're letting some platforms integrate into this new affiliate API, which it seems like that's exactly what you're looking for. But he's like, but unfortunately, it's already full. Like we've already picked all the platforms that we're inviting and like we can't really budge on that. And he was like, in 2025, we'll have it released to the public. And at that point you could build into it. But for now, like there's not much we could do. And I was like, if anything changes, please let me know. But like there's nothing I could say. And so we just kind of went on our way. But then a month later, he emailed us saying, hey, we have a spot that opened up. If you guys want to be part of the beta, we could get you in. And of course, we jumped on that immediately. And that's essentially how we got our foot in the door. And now we have a really great relationship with TikTok.
And was there any financial commitment or anything that you owed them? Or was this just straight up for you guys?
I mean, we owed them an integration by a certain deadline. We owed them a published live TikTok shop app by a certain date. And that was a very, very aggressive timeline that they wanted us to build. So we had to rearrange priorities to meet that, but it was totally worth it. They wanted influencer platforms like Social Snowball to build integrations into this new API. And they wanted it by a certain deadline. And we were like, we could definitely check that box because this is obviously really great for us as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, just thinking about that from that perspective, like super lucky. And obviously, again, you only get lucky if you put yourself in the right place. And obviously, you guys built an amazing product. And I really do think that's the reason why that kind of aligned with you all. What do you see now over the next 2-3 years from this TikTok shop space? Like, what are you guys expecting on your end over these next 2-3 years? As technically, it's not even really mainstream yet. It's still so new.
I mean, I think it's going to keep growing. I think it started almost a little bit gimmicky as far as like the products and the shoppable videos that you would see on there. And I think we've already started to see more like mainstream brands doing well on TikTok, more higher ticket brands doing well on TikTok. Like it's not fully there, but it's moving in that direction. I know for a fact the TikTok shop team is very motivated to make it a full shopping platform as an Amazon would be. And they're aware of the perception that it has now, and they're aware of the products that do well versus the ones that don't. And they are, building and doing what they need to do to make it, again, like that full blown Amazon-esque shopping platform. So I think it's going to definitely continue to move in that direction.
In the influencer space, obviously, like you mentioned, it used to be just like flat fee. You got to pay somebody to post. As somebody who owned a few businesses and worked with influencers back in the day and just talking with a lot of people, that was like the worst because it was always really expensive. There was literally no incentive for them to actually like aggressively make the content to go viral. Now in this new world where, like you said, we're paying for performance, do you think that is going to stay mainstream? Do you think that days of having to pay a flat fee for these videos and stuff is kind of dead?
It's not dead yet, but I do think we're heading in that. I mean, I know we're heading in that direction, and there's a lot of evidence to support that. Of course, TikTok Shop is the biggest one. The fact that they rolled out an entire creator marketplace and marketing platform, and there's not even an option to pay a flat fee on there. Like, that's very telling. Another piece of evidence would be YouTube Shopping is rolling out now, and it's also commission only. So every social platform seems to be coming out with like their own kind of shopping cart or creator platform, which is awesome to see. And every single one is only commission. Like that's just the direction we're heading. I wouldn't be surprised if Meta and Instagram have something similar soon. And on top of that, like just to look at different market trends that are also pushing in that direction. Brands used to be very reliant, and I mean still are, but they used to be solely reliant on paid ads to acquire customers. And paid ads have only become way more expensive, harder to track, just less reliable in general. And because of that, these brands are forced to look to alternative acquisition channels, and creators are a great acquisition channel if you have a way to incentivize them and measure the revenue that they're driving. So if it's just paying creators a flat fee in exchange for a post, that's not really an acquisition channel. That's like just kind of spraying and praying, putting out awareness, tracking views maybe, and hoping that sales come in. But if you are enrolling creators into these more performance partnerships with incentive structures that align both sides to drive as much revenue as possible, then creator actually does become a really great acquisition channel for brands. And I think especially with not just the changes with social commerce, but just the way that paid ads have changed, it's a necessary shift that we're seeing happen. And there's definitely plenty of creators that'll still say no to an affiliate deal, but that number of creators that are saying no is going down every day.
Yeah, and I guess a good way to highlight that is you work with over 2,000 brands. What are like, and again, this is actually more of a question that I'm curious about, like your top 1% of brands on the platform. How many creators do they have working for them at any given time?
It varies so much, honestly. Like we have some brands that maybe only have 200 creators and are doing insane amounts of revenue with those 200. And then we have some brands that, take a more like ambassador, like customer, they're turning their customers into affiliates post purchase, and they're kind of just, getting a ton of micro ambassadors and customers to refer friends. And they could have hundreds of thousands of affiliates in their program, to drive the same amount of revenue as the brand with 250 ambassadors. So it matters. It varies a lot. And I wouldn't say that like if you were to survey the top 1% of our brands that they would all kind of fit one mold. It's some have 500, some have 10,000, some have 100,000, and some have 50.
Do you think it very much has to do with the product that you're selling and the ability to push it out, like the price point and different things like that? Would you say that's maybe one of the bigger differentiating factors?
It's definitely a factor. I think some products are more shareable and social media friendly than others, I
Yeah.
guess. And also, just like as a blanket rule, if you have a higher ticket product, like if your average order value is higher, then you can afford to pay a higher commission. Just like you could afford to pay a higher CPA on Meta, you could afford to pay a higher commission to creators, which will motivate them to choose your product to promote over other products. So that's usually a factor. Like I've noticed like some high ticket brands that can offer like $100 or even $50 as a commission. Creators are very excited about that. Whereas like if they're getting 10% of another brand that's AOV is $30, that's like not super exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I want to make sure that we talk to the people listening because I'm sure, I mean, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. E-commerce, online brands is one of the most popular businesses to start. I want to make sure we talk to those people from the perspective of what does it look like to work with Social Snowball? Do I have to be at a certain revenue number? Is there a time where it makes sense to engage with you all, reach out? How do I go about subscribing or adding your service to what I've already built? Let's answer a few of those.
Sure. I mean, I would say, we have brands that have not even launched yet that are signing up with us because they want to launch with influencers and creators, and they want that to be part of their launch strategy, if not their entire launch strategy. And we have brands that are already doing over 100 million a year that sign up with us, and they already have a huge affiliate program, but they want to migrate it to a platform to make the management easier. We have all kinds of brands. I would say for brands that are just starting out, um, you know, it's if you have a product that would resonate with creators, which is almost every product, like you probably should be gifting it to creators and enrolling them in an affiliate program so that they're posting and they have an affiliate link and they could be earning for doing so. And with TikTok Shop as well, obviously there's no affiliate link with TikTok Shop, but you should probably be doing that on Instagram and TikTok Shop, potentially even YouTube, depending on your product. Another strategy that I think is really great for brands that don't have a lot of resources is the whole turning customers into affiliate strategy, where essentially post purchase can give your customers affiliate links to share with their friends or post on social media right from the thank you page and in the post purchase email flows. And that is like a really easy program to run. It doesn't require as much work as like outreaching creators would require. That's just kind of a set it and forget it channel, and can still generate a lot of revenue. But brands of all size need a creator presence at the end of the day, whether that's their customers talking about them more and posting on social, or like huge influencers mentioning them on social. Like you kind of want it all. So I wouldn't say there's any size necessarily. I do think, in general, social snowball does better with brands that are at least a little bit established. I just don't think, candidly, that the super super small brands can afford us most of the time. We are like a pretty hands-on, like we have a very hands-on team, and we help every brand launch, and we have like pre-built Klaviyo flows, and so we're not necessarily the most affordable solution in the Shopify app store, just to be super honest. But if a brand is looking for like the most, if a brand wants a more premium program where everything is kind of just polished end to end, that's more what we're going for. So to answer your question, brands of all size, but our pricing starts at $200 a month. So as long as you could afford $200 a month and that makes sense for your business, then we're happy to work with anybody, of course. And if you wanted to check us out more, we're in the Shopify app store. If you search Social Snowball, if you go to socialsnowball.io is our website. So that's where people could kind of check it out more and make a decision.
Awesome. And is there, and without maybe getting in trouble from your top brands, is there a brand right now that when you think of somebody who is nailing this affiliate industry and nailing this affiliate approach, like what brand comes to mind first?
Yeah, there's a few. I think, we were just talking about like the turning customers into affiliate strategy. There's a brand called the Pod Company that does a really great job at that. They sell cold plunges and like saunas, like high ticket health and wellness stuff like that. And they have a really passionate customer base, and they drive a lot of revenue through just customers referring friends. So that's like one of my favorite examples for, the customer affiliate program. As far as influencers, I mean, there's so many. There's this one brand, Divi, that's like a hair care brand that does really well with influencer outreach, and they get a ton of new influencers onboarded, and they're all posting and sharing their affiliate links. There's this brand that we did a case study with recently called Chili Pad. It's sleep, or the brand's called Sleep Me, but their product is called Chili Pad. And it's essentially like this heated mattress, I believe, and they do a really great influencer program as well. Those are just a few that come to mind.
Cool. And I only ask that because I want people to be able to go and maybe look at these brands so if they can get an understanding of what it looks like. And I know when you Google them, you'll see all these posts from affiliates and different people like that. So definitely wanted to highlight that. We've talked a lot about the brand you've built and how you've built it. I want to make sure we take some time to extract some of your entrepreneurial knowledge and give it to the people listening. You've been on both sides. You've been that person that didn't really get business, didn't own a company, and now you've gotten to the point where you've built a successful business. You employ 21 people, like a lot of really cool things that I know people listening aspire to be. What advice can you give, and what things have you learned along this journey that you would want some of these entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs listening to know?
I think, one mistake, not necessarily a mistake, but just one thing I used to fall into when I was trying to figure out like my own journey and like, the direction Social Snowball was going to go, is I think I would look at other people that have, built cool businesses, and I would just be like, okay, I just need to follow the steps that they did, like follow the path that they took. And even some people that have built, somewhat similar businesses, like maybe even other Shopify apps. And I would just look at, what marketing did they do, and how did they, even like little things like how do they build their help center, just like things that you wouldn't really think of, because when you're starting a business like this and you don't have experience, everything is new. And what I kind of started to learn is that although it's good to take bits and pieces from other people's paths and like learn from specific things they did, every business is just so fundamentally different that if you try to follow someone else's journey and do what they did too much, it's not going to work for you. And you need to really be able to have conviction in the direction that you're heading and make decisions on your own and learn from what other people have done, but maybe learn that what someone else did doesn't make sense for you, and you should, have a clear reason why it doesn't make sense for you, because you have some vision that you're working towards and you need conviction of that vision, or else that vision is going to change every week and then you don't have a vision in the first place. So I think, I know that's kind of vague advice, but it's something that's, helped me a lot, that I kind of remember is like, I am, I'm steering a ship that has never sailed before. And like, I need to steer it where I think it needs to go. And if I see other ships and I am, envious, or I'm, impressed by where they've made it, I should maybe look at, take bits and pieces of what they've done, but I shouldn't necessarily just copy them exactly. So, that's would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, and I think it's spot on. I know now we live in this time where there's a million podcasts. I mean, we're doing one right now. There's all these books, there's all these newsletters, like all of this content that you can just read and consume. And a lot of people get stuck in that analysis by paralysis by analysis. Yeah, I think that's the right way. That stage where they're just constantly learning but not doing. And I love, even if it's vague, I love that you mentioned that when you're actually in the trenches, like when you're actually building, you will realize that maybe the people you idolized, maybe the companies that you thought were amazing, once you get to know them, learn about the industry, you realize they aren't. They do some things really good, but they do other things not great. And you having the ability to, like you said, take the bits and pieces out of all these people you meet, that's how you create the successful entrepreneur down the road. So I think it was actually really great advice.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. As we come to the end of these conversations, for me, one, I want to make sure I give you the ability to shout out any of the socials and the brand itself. I want people to be able to take this conversation, and if it resonated with them, if it interests them, go and reach out to you. Obviously, if that's okay with you, and connect, and get to know you. Where would the best place to send those people be?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Social Snowball, our website socialsnowball.io, and you could book a meeting with our team right from the site, or watch like a demo video of the app. If you want to reach out to me, obviously I love talking about this influencer and affiliate stuff all day. So my LinkedIn is Noah Tucker. If you search that, you'll definitely see me. Or Twitter.
Okay, perfect.
Or find me on
Yeah.
Twitter too. Yeah, either is fine.
Yeah, and we'll have all of that linked below wherever you're watching or listening to this, so you can go and connect. But Noah, I always ask the same question at the end of every podcast, and you might have answered it already because I I asked that last question. But if you could go back and talk to the 18-year-old Noah, what advice would you tell him?
It's a really good question. I'm trying to think if there's anything besides what I just said, because I do think that would probably be one of the first things I said, or one of the first things I would tell myself. I would say find a technical co-founder. I would say, surround myself by more people who have accomplished what I'm trying to accomplish, because, although it's not following their path directly, I do have like some advisors and mentors that have already built and exited, really incredible SaaS businesses, and having them, again, it's not copying what they've done, but just having them as a sounding board when I'm going through the challenges that they faced in the past, and they can tell me how they've navigated it. And then again, I could take what they tell me and use that to make my own decision. But just having that has been incredibly helpful as well. But if I could only tell them one thing, it would be find a technical co-founder.
Yeah, that is super fair. And I couldn't agree with you more. The amount of entrepreneurs I've talked to that would say the same thing that you just said after building their product is probably 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Um, and I like the sounding board thing, because I always preach to people, don't get too obsessed with mentorship, because now we've like very much glorified having mentors and reaching people. And I think it's really important, as long as you're very intentional about who you pick. But it also is really important to surround yourself with like-minded people. And I think one of the most limiting things people do is not leave their little circle, not push themselves out around other people, because you will doubt yourself if you don't hear other people talking about how they achieved it. You will think that it's impossible. You will think it's not real if everybody around you has stayed the same. And I think at your level, from a business standpoint, having people around you that have gotten to where you want Social Snowball is so important. And obviously, you know that as well. It's so important to have those people around you so that you're able to be somewhat delusional, really think that there is this huge opportunity that you've obviously honed in on, because you wouldn't build it if there wasn't. But without having people around you that have seen success done it in the past, it's hard sometimes when shit is tough to believe that. But when there's people around you that have done it and tell you that it's there and you see the proof, it becomes a lot easier.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything to ask you, anything top of mind here before we jump in the end. But unless you wanted to leave anybody here with some last words, any entrepreneur that's stayed with us till this last second, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Thank you for letting us know about what it looks like to build a successful